A very good evening, dear friends. A very happy and warm welcome to all of you. We hope you would have had a very great weekend, and to gather all of our energies throughout the day, we will start with meditation on Mother's music so that we receive the most out of today's session. I will request all of you to please go on mute while we meditate for a minute. Thank you, everyone, and a very warm welcome. It is wonderful to see so many of you continuing to join us in this exploratory journey, along with so many new faces who have joined us today. Gratitude and love to all of you who have joined to explore this beautiful journey of relationships together with us. As you know, we have been exploring topics like depression, and today we will have the last part under relationships. Part 7 from the series, Twilight to Light, the Sunlit Path series of interactions. And today's discussion topic is relationship with the divine. For the deep dive into this exploration, we have with us Shiva Kumar, who will be interacting with us in this journey. Shiva Kumar, an engineer who took to computer aided design during his brief career in the industrial world, realized early that it is the spiritual dimension that adds depth and meaning to all aspects of life. Since 2001, he has been part of AuroYouth, the youth initiative of Sri Aurobindo Society, and has been involved with its youth related programs. We welcome you all. Before starting with the interaction, we would quickly like to request everybody to be on mute all the time. In case you have any questions, you can post them over chat. And for all of us who are live, and all of you who are live with us on Facebook, you can post your questions over comments. So beginning with the interaction, Shivda, in the previous sessions, we have understood about intimate relationships. So what exactly qualifies to be an intimate relationship?
Thank you for the introductions and setting off in a direction which resonates with the youth. Because who doesn't want to be intimate or have intimacy in a relationship? It is like adding butter to the fuel, otherwise, the fuel might go off after some time. In the last couple of interactions, as Palak has mentioned, Divyanshi took up the interaction with the type of relationship that one might have as an intimate partner. She even took us through the 6 stages of love. But suddenly, in our last session with Rahul, he took us also to the relationship which we can have even with the material objects around us. But coming back to the intimate relationship. First thing, I would like to take a look at the myth, because one thing becomes certain, that when we call something as an intimate relationship, what we generally understand, and even Wikipedia says about this, I had to look up just to ensure, it says an intimate relationship is commonly a sexual relationship or a relationship based primarily on physicality and things stem out of it. It's almost like saying that if you got to be intimate, well, you got to get physical. And this is something that the youth resonates with. And is there any validity to it? We need to go a little deeper into it, because it's important for the youth to go and little deeper and understand what brings intimacy to a relationship. Because if we focus only on the physical aspect of two people getting closer together physically, one of the first things that happens in such a relationship, in a partnership relationship, is after some time, one of them will come up with a demand, don't get too close to me, I want my own space. Why? Because if somebody is staring down on us, everything that we do from morning to evening, even with the idea of I'm totally fallen in love with you, it's almost like somebody keeping an eye on us all the time is not okay. At some point of time, we need to have certain relief from the physical intimacy or the physical closeness. And this is the nature of anything physical, because we cannot maintain a close relationship for sufficiently long period of time without getting a little, palled by it, getting a little almost dissatisfied with. It doesn't apply only to the relationship, but take something simple just to drive home the point, something simple as food. Well, let's say you've fallen in love. This is also one way of saying fallen in love with the latest pizza with a specific type of, what do they call the topping? You are so much in love with it that on the first day, if somebody orders it for you, well, you enjoy it to the maximum. But the next day, the friend comes to you and then says, let's have the pizza. I know which pizza you like the best. Come on, let's order it. You jump into it because you've just had recently the taste of it. You go for it. And it so happens that the third time also, somebody comes and offers your most liked pizza, the thing which you put into your mouth. It's almost like you're melting into it. You are in a state of, extreme liking of that taste. But third and fourth day, if somebody keeps on offering the same thing, at some point of time, you're going to say that, no, I've had enough of it, because physically, we can't have the same thing over and over and again, because our physical part doesn't have the capacity to maintain a same relationship for a sufficiently long amount of time. And even another question comes, when we get physical with something, are we really being physical? Just imagine, take the same example of food. When your favorite pizza goes into your mouth, all that you are aware of what happens is what happens in this 1 square inch, the taste that you get. But once it has gone inside, are we aware of what happens to us and food which has gone inside? What happens to the relationship of us with the food? We do not have any idea of what is happening to the food that we have eaten. And there is so much unawareness which is part of our physicality, and all that we are aware of is only this much. Just take one look at our own physical part, and it is so easy to come to the conclusion that there are a million things that is happening right now. My heart is beating, it's pumping blood. Am I aware of it? No, I'm not aware of this part. My lungs are constantly drawing in breath. Am I aware of it? No, it keeps happening. And whatever I have had for dinner or perhaps even for lunch, it has gone in and a tremendous amount of activity is happening right within my stomach. It is getting digested. Whatever is got digested, the energy is getting distributed to each and every part of my body. Am I aware of it? No. There are a million things that happens in every cell of my body. It is said that our body is the busiest factory in the whole world. There's no other factory where such busy activities are going on in one single place, in one single entity, and that is the body. But how much are we even aware of it? Can we base anything on something which we are so less aware of it? Now, one type of people will say that, what are you talking about? Body is such a concrete thing. No, I am, if at all I'm sure of anything, it is my body. But this is the first thing that I would like to challenge. How much are we even conscious of the body to have anything to base on the body? So we are going to do one fun experiment just to drive home the point, for which I would like some of you to switch on your videos so that I can see some of you, and then you will find that how fun-filled our notion of the body and how much we are aware of the body. So can I have some of you at least switch? Thank you so much. So this is my right hand, and so do you. All of you have a right hand. Keep the right hand on the table in front of you, and I'm going to say something to you. You have to follow my instructions. All right? So focusing on the right hand, raise your right hand feet or a couple of feet above, and then bring down the right hand and keep it on your table, the same place. All right? Shall we do it once again? Raise your hand and put it back. So I'm going to ask at least one of you, let's take Suchismita, that did you do what I told you to do? Did you raise your hand? So I'm guessing Suchismita says, yes, I did raise my hand. Did you not see it in the video that is there? But I'm going to really ask you, are you the one, did you really raise your hand? Because if you have raised your hand, can you tell me how much of blood you have to pump into your hands? How much of energy you have to send through the nerves in your hand? How many muscles did you activate in order to simply lift your hand from in front of you on the table to 1 foot high? Can you tell me, Suchismita, that how did you do it? So did you pump? Oh, I have to raise my hand. Let me pump half a liter of blood into, and I'm going to send some nerve current so that it happens very efficiently, and I have at least, let us say, 50-60 muscles in it, and each one will have to be, I'm going to operate 1, 2, 3, 4, and then the hand comes up. In fact, if you have not done any of the things, how can you even say that it is you who lifted your hand? Doesn't seem to be. You just said, I wanted to, because Shivakumar is saying, lift your hand. So I want to lift my hand. And then it is not you who lifted, something in your body seems to have lifted. It is almost like there is a ghost sitting in the body, and it somehow gets the instruction, and if it is in the mood, it will do it. And it is interesting, because if I am in charge of my body, if I am conscious of it, then I would immediately tell you, oh, the moment I wanted to raise my hand, I pump my blood, I send my nervous current, I activate my muscles, and I lift it. It is I who lift it. And the fact seems to be that we have no clue, no control, no awareness over the body, except, thank God, something is automatically following our instruction only at times. And when it doesn't do what we want it to do, we end up in trouble. Like when we are eating, we are aware of this much of what we put into our mouth, and we have a little control over the hand movement. And because this part feels it so good, you start with one pizza, and then you continue with probably one more round of probably some nice momos, and then end up with gulab jamun. And then finally, when you go to the bed, that is when you find that there is a mini Kurukshetra Mahabharata Yuddha which is taking place in the stomach, and it gets so upset because all that you have been aware of is only this much. You knew how to put it in, you knew how to taste, you had no idea of how to digest it, nor have any even awareness of what has happened. How can you base something on this piece where you just get closer to somebody physically, and if you rub some skin, can you call that as an intimate relationship? What are we talking about? How can we have an intimate relationship with something which is so less conscious, and only a little bit here and there are we aware of it? And this is the first myth, and that is one of the reasons why focusing so much on mere physicality and building things on the physicality is doomed to be a failure. But then again, if we have to call that relationship as truly and really intimate, what makes a relationship intimate? Is it really the getting closer physically a sign of intimacy? Now, there was once in the ashram in Pondicherry, the Sri Aurobindo ashram, the mother of Sri Aurobindo ashram, she used to be in touch with all the disciples in the ashram, and the ashram is a place where it bustles with activity from morning to night. Everybody is involved in doing something, and that is it. Now, there is always a comment which people during those times used to get from people who are outside of the ashram. They always say, oh, how nice it will be that all of you from morning to night are with the mother, and she is such a personality that she just charges you up. You are such lucky people to have such an intimate closeness with the mother. And when somebody mentioned it to the mother, mother said very straightly that it's not physically that you can really get closer to me. You can get closer to me only in your heart. And when you get closer to me within your heart, that is the real thing. Just look at all the relationship that we ourselves form. When do we say that it gets intimate? Only when we get closer in our heart, and as a result, and if we follow it up with physicality, it has some sense. But if we take up the relationship in its totality, in everything around us, not just the partnership type of a relationship, the relationship that we have with our parents, with our siblings, with our friends, and even with the things around us, nature, a tree, a flower, a sky, ocean, all this. When do you say that you really get intimate with them? Well, you can go and sit next to an ocean for 24 hours every day, and on days you can sit simply, but unless and until you connect with the ocean deep within your heart, then it is not actually being intimate. And this is one of the myths that I wanted to straight away get out of our exploration of what could be a really deep, intimate relationship, and also a little bit into what it means to be getting closer to the divine. But we have gotten rid of one myth. There is a second myth which I want to get rid of. And just imagine a relationship. It can be not necessarily the partner type of relationship, any relationship that you have with anybody who is around you. Like I said, parents or siblings, or your friend, or even with somebody with whom you have a partnership type of relationship. And once we know that getting closer with our heart is the basis of relationship, what do we mean when I say getting closer with the heart? Well, that is what we call love. When you say love, what do you mean? It's getting closer to somebody with all of your heart, and the deeper you get closer with somebody within your heart, well, the greater is the love. And it is this love that gives us joy, isn't it? So, what gives us joy? Well, love. What gives us love? Intimacy. What type of intimacy? Intimacy between our hearts. And in this, if love is such an important component, And in all our relationship, you could notice that the love can be of two types. The first one is, in fact, the love that we give and share with others in whatever way. It may be in terms of the time that we spend for the other person, the amount of effort that we take, or the money we spend, or the objects that we share. It could be anything, but it is something where we share, we give our love. Other one is an interesting scenario. Just imagine you are there in any place and you are loved by everybody around you. They all and come and shower their love on you. So your mama comes and then she comes with all the nice khana, beautifully made. Your dad comes and then says, Beta, this week I'm increasing your allowance and you are getting more money. And your friends come, they come and say that, well, we have arranged a picnic for you, all in order to make you happy. The love that we get, the love that we receive is the second type. So there are two types of love. One is the love that we give. It flows out from us to everybody in whatever form, in time, in terms of time, effort, or money, or whatever else we have. The other one is the love that we receive. Frankly speaking, the love that we give, thoda mushkil hai. It's a little difficult. We have to put a lot of effort and money, and then we'll have to keep remembering all. But if you ask me personally, it looks as if the love that I get, if everybody decides to love me and gives me a lot of love, well, I will be in cloud nine. Interesting. The question is that which love, usually in our relationship, both components are there. The love that we give and the love that we get. Somehow I feel that if I get a lot of love, I will be more happy. Isn't it? What do you think? Interesting question. Giving love to all the people and all measuring, इतना मेहनत करना है, and then पैसा खर्चा करना है. Just imagine the amount of petrol I will have to spend. I would have emptied a whole petrol bunk in going after taking care of my beloved. All, so too much effort. But if everybody decides to give me love, that makes me the happiest person. And is it true? What makes us more happy, leads to more intimate and joyous relationship? Is it the love that we receive more, or is it more the love that we give? Now, we are going to have a quick poll, and in that poll, this is going to be the question. Now, remember, both components are there in all our relationship. So, I'm going to ask you to think of one relationship where you are really, close with the other person, and then we are going to enter into this poll, for which I am going to request Palak or Harshita to switch on the poll, and we will have a quick look at this myth. What makes us really happy? So think of any close relationship that you are having, or you had. Unfortunately, I don't know, that relationship has ended. They're all based on love. Was it based more on the love you received? If so, because I know people who spend with their mother, no, you just keep receiving and receiving, and hardly you get a chance to give. And there could be other type of love where you give, थोड़ा सा मिलता है आपस में, and or somewhere there is an equal receiving and giving.
So, for everybody who is on Facebook, I will read out the question and the options. The question is, think of any close relationship that you have or had. All relationships are based on love. You can look at it quantitatively or qualitatively or both together. The options are: 1. Was it based more on the love you received? Option 2. Was it based more on the love you gave? Option 3. Equal receiving and giving. You can type your answers in the comment box.
interesting filling up. The way I see it, fair amount of people are, they have pole equal receiving and then giving. So it's not a lopsided love that they have gone through. It's braver. And some, as of now, about 29 to 30%, well, they've said the love that I had was more based on giving, and 12%, somehow they must have felt that no, there is more to love in giving than receiving, so they have decided to give love more than receiving. Interesting, one quick look at it. Well, it's not a business transaction. If you are giving and then receiving, you may be under the impression, and in fact, this business type of loving or entering into a relationship leads to all type of questions. Just imagine, I'm taking up one particular type of example. Let us take up the relationship that you have with a partner type of a relationship, or even with your best friend. Well, if you have a birthday, and then you are already, there's a natural expectation that at least your best and closest friend will have to do it. Why? Because for his birthday, remember what I did? I took a leave for my office, and I took him for a beautiful picnic into an unimaginably beautiful location, and now my friend will have to match the expectation is automatically created in a kind of almost like a business way, and it is natural that this is likely to enter into all relationship. तुम्हारे लिए कितना मैं किया है, how much did I live, how much time I have spent with you, how much and can you not do back to me even this much, as if we are entering into a business relationship. I have given you this much and you have to give me this much. As long as it is barabar 50-50%, well, we are good. Not going to happen. Your business might flourish in that way, but love is not going to flourish. If you want a truly intimate relationship, the secret is not in the love that we receive, but in the love that we give. And I think we will close the poll. I want to share one beautiful quotation from the mother and what she says about this. And this is what she says. Love, what is this love? Is love something where we keep on receiving things and it will make me happy? Or is love, the true love, the love of a higher variety, is it focused on giving? And what type of giving? Well, one thing is I can give the time, the effort, the things that I have. But when I give something of myself from the depth of my heart to you and allow it to express itself without entering into a business transaction, whether it is with profit or without profit, and that's what the mother says, love is self-giving. What does it mean? Well, which she also says, without asking anything in return. What does it mean, self-giving? Well, I have my body and I can do a lot of things, and the body and its energies, if I can focus on expressing myself so that it becomes an expression of my love for the goodness in you, for reaching out to you, for giving you joy, then that is one part of me which is giving itself completely, so much so that without asking anything in return, that becomes a mark and a sign of self-giving. But not only this giving of my physical energies, I have plenty of emotions. Can I not gather all the energies of my emotion and allow it to flow towards the person with whom I have a relationship without condition, without expectation, and without adding any conditions or limitations to it? When I can do that, it becomes a self-giving of my emotions, and I take it by one notch. And even in my thoughts, and if I can channelize all the thoughts towards the expression of my love, then I can say that all of me is into self-giving without asking anything in return. And when that happens, one has to be very careful, because one is likely to run out of steam after some time. Just imagine a love where you're focusing only on giving, and after some time, gradually one expectation will come. It usually happens, in the initial stage of falling in love. We saw with Divyanshi, मेरी जान दे दूंगा तुम्हें. That's how it's beautiful state. Absolute self-giving. Just imagine a love where you say that I will give even my life, and down the line, let's say you get married, 5 years afterwards or even 10 years afterwards, COVID situation comes, you enter into the kitchen of the people who got married, and you will find them fighting that my cooking kiya, you at least can wash the utensils, what are you doing? And then I have done this, so at least sweep the floor. No, you come and then you start reading the papers in newspaper, can't we? And then suddenly you remember what happened to the love which said meri jaan de dunga, to the level down the line. After some time it fizzles down. And therefore the most important thing is that this self-giving love cannot happen. It is not an ideal for us right now, simply because we have only this much capacity of loving somebody. We have only this much emotional energy, physical energy, and the mental energy. And then if we spend it on giving it away, then after some time we feel dry. And once we feel dry, ye dil mange more, kuch na kuch return karna hai na. So the initial stage I kind of invested, now thoda sa return chahiye, and then we enter into it. And this is simply because we cannot give love, we cannot give all our energies if we have limited stock and supply. And this type of a love is not something we attempt unless and until we connect ourselves to a source which has unlimited supply. Makes sense, isn't it? If you are not connected with something which has unlimited supply of, let me say, my physical energies, it's almost like my energy of the body is flowing from that source, so that from morning to night, 24 hours, I can spend on this energy for the sake of the intimacy of the relationship, giving joy to the other person. My emotional energy is coming from that source in an unlimited, unconditional way, so much so that it's like a flood, which actually, if you turn that flood towards anybody, it is sufficient to sweep them off their feet. If you can find a source which can give you unlimited, unconditional love, people can hardly resist this type of a love. And not only people, but anybody who encounters this love will be finding it very difficult to resist this type of a love. And I have to share you what it feels to have this type of a love. So in the ashram, there was once a dance drama being enacted, and under mother's guidance. So one of the dance was about Radha and Krishna. And in this dance drama, one of the main dancers who was portraying Radha, so she, through her dance, she was expressing the attitude of Radha towards Krishna. And the mother will look at it and she will say, no, it's not it, not it. And then she will go away. So the person who was portraying Radha will make a more effort in order to just personify the attitude of Radha towards Krishna. And then mother will again say that no, it is not it. And finally the person said, mother, you only will know what is Radha's true attitude. Can you not tell us the attitude of Radha towards Krishna, the love that she had, the unconditional outpouring of the energy that she had, so that we get a glimpse of it, and then I will see how it can be expressed through dance. And then the mother went into her room, wrote this beautiful piece, which we now know as Radha's prayer, which actually embodies the attitude of Radha towards Krishna. And this is a prayer which, as we go through it, we will understand what it means when we say that love is self-giving. And we need to know that this is also a possibility in the love that we have towards everything, and if you choose to be, towards the divine. Well, we will have to hold on a little longer to go a little deeper into the word divine, because it seems to be a mystery word. It seems to be somebody who is sitting somewhere above and we are trying to enter into a relationship. But that, once we see what Radha's prayer is, once we get the attitude, then we will see who is the divine towards which it is turned. So this is Radha's prayer. I will read out to you. Listen to it with an empty mind and with all of your heart, just to get the flavor of what must Radha have felt when she was thinking about Krishna. And this is the prayer. O thou whom at first sight I knew for the Lord of my being and my God, receive my offering. What a beautiful. At first sight, how can you know that this is the person to whom I have to give myself totally, unless and until within your heart you are already connected and intimate and familiar with that person? And Radha's coming together with Krishna was not physical, it was an intimate inner union and coming together that we are talking about, because of which, when physically they met, at the first sight, Radha says, I knew at first sight for the Lord of my being and my God, receive my offering. What type of self-giving? Thine are all my thoughts, what we have just seen. I cannot think of anything other than you. And that is it. Thine are all my thoughts, all my emotions, my laughter, my crying, my feeling happy, my feeling sad, my suffering, everything is because of my emotion towards you or your emotions which are coming towards me, but it is from you or from me towards you. All my emotions, all the sentiments of my heart, and not only my thoughts and emotions and sentiments, even the sensations which I have. Suppose suddenly if I feel that a wind blows and I can feel that cool breeze right on my skin, and when I feel it, I think I feel that it is Krishna who is just coaxing me and then cajoling me in the form of this beautiful breeze, and even that sensation and all the moments of my life. And this is Krishna. This is my offering, and this is what I am offering to you as part of my self-giving. But this is all something that we have already had a glimpse. She takes it to a further level, and what we said physical, well, if you want to get physical, this is what it means. And she continues, each cell of my body, each drop of my blood, and this too receive as my offering, and this is part of the offering of my body. When each cell of me is saying that Krishna, I'm about to give myself to you, each drop of my blood feels that it is for you, Krishna, that I exist. And he says, and she continues to say, I am absolutely and altogether thine, thine without reserve. And then, what thou wilt of me, what thou want of me, that I shall be. Now, this doesn't seem okay. Why should I become something which somebody else wants me to be? Well, I can do that provided that person knows the best part of me and is concentrated and focused on helping me to become the best that I can be, which sometimes even we ourselves do not know. How many of us know that what I am meant to be? And we don't yet know. If we have somebody who knows what we are meant to be, and then that person wants us to be our best, well, that is part of the Radha's attitude towards Krishna. What thou will of me, what thou want of me, Well, that I shall be, because I know that I will be the best I can be. And whether thou choosest for me life or death, because both have deep significance, happiness or sorrow, pleasure or suffering. Now, again, a question comes, why should Krishna or the person whom I love so much give me sorrow or suffering? How is it even possible? And it is possible only because the way I am constituted now, I'm not yet mature enough to learn and grow only through happiness, because there are so many hard notions of me, some hard habits of me, which they have to be broken, a little bit of effort and pain and sorrow is inevitable. But even this sorrow and suffering is on account of you, because you are helping me to become the best I can be. Remember that beautiful line in Savitri, pain is the hammer of gods. Why? Not to give us pain, suffering, but so that we can break out of things that limit us, things that confine us, and things that condition us, in order to come out of that conditioning, because we are keeping those conditioning a little hard on ourselves. Sometimes we need to get a kick in the butt, so to speak, and then we wake up and then we say, oh, and then we wake up to certain higher realities. Whether thou chooses for me life or death, happiness or sorrow, pleasure or suffering, all that comes from thee will be welcome. Each one of thy gifts will be always for me a gift divine, bringing with it the supreme felicity. And this, what Mother has said, is Radha's prayer. And somewhere slowly the notions are forming, okay, so this is for Krishna. What if I don't like Krishna? If I like Jesus Christ, will it be the same thing with him? Or will it be a little different? What if I don't believe in any god, neither Shiva nor Krishna or Vishnu or Jesus or Allah or anything? So I am kind of believing in some power, some intelligence, whatever name you can. We need to know that what is it that we can address when we say self-giving. What is it to that which we are supposed to give ourselves? Is it a figure, the so-called divine, sitting somewhere in the cloud, or sitting somewhere in Kailash, or in Dwaraka, or in any other place? Is it somebody there who will have to come and then receive my self-giving, so that that partnership, that relationship could be made beautiful? In order to have a clue of this, see, it is only in India that this way of looking at the divine has been so beautifully developed, that our country has put it even in the form of a story which even you and I might be knowing. I'm sure all of you must be familiar with the story of Mahabharata, and especially if you're talking about that 96 episodes which got aired in the early 90s, my introduction to Mahabharata is mostly through what I saw on the TV, but still it gives us an idea of this. And especially when the Chirharan episode came, the emotions were boiling in me. I'm sure everybody will be remembering the Chirharan episode. If not, well, I'm going to share this particular story from the Mahabharata with all of you, and it is related to Chirharan episode. For those who, in the rare event of being unfamiliar with the story of Mahabharata, well, the Chirharan episode is Duryodhan was trying to get the Pandavas to hand over their kingdom to him so that he can rule over the country. And in order to do that, he will have to trick the Pandavas. But you know, the Pandavas, they are really fabulous people, some of the greatest warriors. Take Dharmaraj, well, he is known for his righteousness. Arjuna is known for his shaurya, his valor. And then Bhima, intimidating fellow. Nakal and Sahadev, Chaturya, very clever and intelligent people. These are some of the best in the world in those times. And if you have to trick, he started looking for a small weakness in them, especially the eldest of them, Dharmaraj. And Dharmaraj had one weakness. He was a man of righteous. He Dharmaka Raj, so he was so righteous, and yet there was just one weakness to him. He was into a little bit of gambling, and using his weakness for gambling, Duryodhan engages Dharmaraj into a game of dice. And when the game happened, the dice was loaded because he had the support of his mama, Shakuni, and he did something with the dice, because of which Duryodhan started winning. And eventually Pandavas lost their kingdom, their wealth. And finally, when they said that they have nothing to lose, then Duryodhan uses his Brahmastra, because there was a time when he was, in a certain sense, disgraced by Draupadi, and he has been wanting to take revenge on Draupadi. So with this in mind, he came up with this Brahmastra. He told Dharmaraj, no, you have not put bet and lost everything. You still have one, your wife, the Draupadi, and here is what I throw in. If you win this throwing of the dice, I will return everything that you lost in one go. But if you lose, you just have to lose Draupadi. And anyway, you lost everything. How are you going to keep her happy anyway? It's better to hand her over. And with the temptation, the dice was thrown, and as it was loaded, the Dharmaraj lost it, and Duryodhan orders who to bring Draupadi. He orders Dushasan, his own brother, to bring Draupadi, not just like that, but holding onto her hair and then drawing her. And that was how he wanted Draupadi to be brought in, because he wanted completely to disgrace Draupadi. And when Draupadi was brought like this, Draupadi was caught by surprise. She looked all around. 5 of her husbands, the greatest people on earth, were there, all of them with their head bowed down, and she didn't know what happened. And in that heat of the moment, to disgrace her further, Duryodhan orders Dushasan to disrobe her. Well, this is a story that we all know, so I'm going to go quick with the story. So Dushasan, it was said, had the strength of 10 elephants in his shoulder, in his bhujas. And with that, following the instruction of his brother, he started disrobing Draupadi. And at that point, Draupadi looked at her husbands, some of the best guys in the world, not one, not two, she had 5 of them. None of them came to her help. And then finally, she called out to Krishna, and suddenly the miracle happened. The sari kept coming and coming. And it was said that Dushasan, who had the strength of 10 elephants, fell down on the ground, completely exhausted. He said, "Arey Baba, I can't do it anymore." And this is not the story I wanted to share with you. There is a part 2, a sequel to it, and which many of you may not be knowing. And that is the story actually I wanted to share with you. It happens after the Mahabharata Yuddha is over. Pandavas have won, and the Pandavas decided to host a dinner in honor of Krishna. So they call Krishna because it's because of Krishna that they won the war. And Krishna comes, he has a sumptuous dinner cooked and specially personally supervised by Draupadi. And then at the end of the dinner, well, Krishna gets up to wash his hands, and as he was walking, Draupadi rushes because she wants to pour water to Krishna's hands. So she picks up some water, starts pouring to Krishna, and they are standing close to each other. And then Draupadi quietly tells Krishna, "Krishna, I just want to ask you one question which have been nagging me for a long time." Krishna says, "Draupadi, you can ask me anything. We are so close. You don't have to hesitate. Ask, shoot the question." And then Draupadi tells Krishna, "Krishna, you remember that Chirharan episode? I don't know, episode number 46 or somewhere around that, when I was being shamed by the Shasan. And at that time, I called you, you came. Even the 5 great Maharathas who were my husband, sorry to say, even they didn't come. when I most needed them, they didn't come. They lowered their head. You came, you rescued me. But my question is, I called out to you and then you came and the miracle happened. But between my calling and your coming, there was a half a second delay, Krishna. At that time, almost my heart shifted its place. What? Where is my Krishna? And then you came, and I know it's only a half a second, but why should there be even a half a second's delay? Should you not have come instantaneously when I am calling out with all of my being? Should you not have come? And then Krishna, with a nice smile, asked Draupadi, Draupadi, when you called me, how did you call me? So Draupadi says, well, I called you, hey Dwarkanath, hey Krishna, ao bachao. And then Krishna says, well, because of that, I have to come running all the way from Dwaraka, and I came at a superman speed, but thoda der ho gaya, half a second I took up, then I came here. But if you had called me as Hey Antaryami, Ao Bachavo, I would have leapt out at that very instant, and even a half a second's delay would not have happened. And this gives us a clue in a certain sense. Well, if Draupadi has called, hey Shivaji, ao bachavo, it would have taken probably a couple of seconds because Shivaji has to come all the way from where? From Mount Kailash. Well, the divine or whoever it is there. And where is he? Antaryami, he is in the heart. He will have to put on the makeup of Shivaji and then come flying all the way from Kailash. Obviously, it will take a couple of seconds. But all these forms and names, they are part of a religious approach when we are not able to access that Antaryami, the divine within, who exists as he is, whether it's a he or she or it doesn't matter. Call it by whatever name you will. The fact is that what we call as the divine is not sitting anywhere else, but sitting right within our heart. And if we get in touch, in connection with the divine within and start to draw out, keep that divine as the source of everything that we do, every thought that comes out of us, every feeling that comes out of us, even the physical impulses that come out of it. If we get connected with the divine within and draw things out of it and allow this expression which comes from that source in our heart, if we allow that to come out, do you know, we don't have an idea how will the relationship of us with everything around us will undergo a quantum change. And in order to even get a clue of if we can get connected with the divine within, and if we allow that divine to express, because what is the divine? Well, it's nothing but the essence of love. And it is from that divine that if at all a love comes out, it is from there that it has to come. We don't have to manufacture or purchase love from somewhere in order to share it with people. We don't have to go to any supermarket. The source from where the love comes is right there within our heart. If we get connected with it, with that connection, when we step outside, if I step out of my home, if I step out of the house that I live in, what will it feel like? And well, you and I cannot imagine. We have to rely on somebody who experiences it, and none other than the mother. We will turn to the mother to tell us, well, how does it feel? When we enter into relationship with the divine within and then step out. And this is what the mother tells us all out of her experience, which gives us a clue what it means to have a relationship with the divine. She says, you begin to live in all things and in all beings. If you look at a person, you almost feel ye apna hai, even before the other person can recognize you, because it takes a little bit of time for the other person to recognize you, spend time with you and develop a relationship. You already know that person inside out, because what is within you, the divine within, is there within everything and everybody outside of you, and therefore the connection is instantaneous. Otherwise, it takes a lot of time to get intimate with somebody, to know the person inside out in his best part. But when we get in touch with the divine within and when we step outside, there is an instant connection, because that part is there secretly in everything that we see, in our parents, in our friends, in our siblings, in our partners. Why even people? It is there even in the sky and the flowers and the trees and the ground, and even a stone, a patthar, when we take. And this is what mother will eventually share. What happens when it happens? We have a very modern concept, inclusive. It came because before people were excluding other people, and in order to counteract, they brought in another word, let us be inclusive with everything. But just imagine, the true way of being inclusive is getting in touch with the divine within. And when we step out, because that same presence is there in everything around us, there is an instant connection. You cannot exclude anything from that connection. And me, I, and then you, what is mine and yours, all the barriers get smashed. I continue reading. The barriers separating individuals from each other break down. Beautiful. And then how much can we become familiar with the other person? When I approach a person by remaining in touch with the divine within, it gets directly connected with the divine within the other person, and immediately we get an understanding of the thoughts and the feelings and the way that other person knows. In fact, we get to know the other person even better than he knows about himself. And that is what mother says. You think in their thoughts, and he's thinking something, you know the thought inside out. You vibrate in their sensation, you feel in their feelings, live in the life of all. And not only between individuals this happen, but even with the things around us. What seemed inert suddenly becomes full of life. Stones quicken. You pick up a stone and hold it in front of you. You can connect so deeply with the stone that you can get connected with the presence deep within the stone, which is pulsating and is capable of returning that love that you feel for that. And that is the connection we feel even by picking up a stone. You pick up a stone and you can get blissed out. And that is the power of entering into relationship with the divine within. And if this is the experience that a stone can give, what about when I walk up to a plant and try to interact with it? Well, plants feel and will and suffer. Animals speak in a language more or less articulate, because a dog will be saying bow bow to you. Well, hardly we understand. But to us who are in touch with the inner divine, clear and expressive. What a flower wants to share with us, what a plant wants to share with us. Today when I step out, what does the sky want to tell me? And if I am standing in front of an ocean, what does the ocean want to exchange and interchange with me? It becomes so very alive. What seemed inert suddenly becomes full of life. Stones quicken, plants feel, will and suffer. Animals speak in a language more or less inarticulate, but for me, clear and expressive. Everything around me is animated by a marvelous consciousness without time or limit. Meaning, well, aaj I felt like this, tomorrow will I feel different? No, it's not confined by time. 10 years after that, 50 years after that, if you happen to live even 100 years in your oldest age, and still this love is going to keep so alive within you without time or limit. And this is only one aspect of, well, mother gives a name to this divine within. No form, it doesn't say that no, it has to have a cross or an Om symbol or nothing of that, just a name, psychic. So when we get in touch with the psychic realization, all that I have shared with you, you may already be imagining, oh, how nice if I get in touch with that divine within my heart, with the psychic. What a fantastic thing. My chair and table, my room, my house, and everything around me, all the people, I'm into such beautiful relationship. And this is all, well, Mother quietly brings in. This is only one aspect of the psychic realization. What is psychic realization? Getting in touch with the divine within. There are others, many others, and we are going to take a couple more, and then we will perhaps open for question. Now, when I, through a process of deepening and intense concentration and my prayer and aspiration, through whatever means, if I happen to get in touch with the divine within, and then when I step out, because the same divine presence is everywhere around us, I gain a new capacity. And this capacity is called identification through intuition. So when I take a flower and then look at it, and if I am in touch with the inner divine, I get so much identified with the flower that I can feel the energy, the sensation, and the psychic presence in the flower, so that I become the flower almost. And this is a new capacity. And when I have this identification, I know everything that needs to be known about the flower. What do I mean? Not only the scientific things, not only its form and structure and color and fragrance, but even the quality that a flower represents, and the love, that selfless love which it expresses in the form of fragrance and color and structure. And even that, I know it, and a new type of wisdom opens up in me. It is not a knowledge arrived by studying, noting down, classifying. Oh, there are 5 types of flower, and the flower that I hold is this. It has so many petals. No, we know by becoming something, and that is a different type of knowledge from the knowledge or the information which we arrive through books. And therefore, when Mother said there are many others, when we get in touch with the source of love with us, we also get in touch with the source of all wisdom, because it is like a torchlight. Wherever we turn it to, the thing yields itself, reveals its secret, and we become intimate with it. We become one with it through a process of identification. Now, when we are in this state, where we are in touch with the source of love and wisdom within us, gradually, when we want to do something, either for the people with us or for the nature which surrounds us, to the sky or the ocean or the flowers and plants around us, in order to do something, we need an enormous amount of strength and power in us. And interestingly, we are going to find that we have enough energy and power and strength which is coming out of us. Not even for a single second, it is going to say, like what happens in the corporate world, well, 2 months you work yourself out, spend all the energy, and then you go for an utter breakdown. Or you work for 5 days, well, the next 2 days you have to, because you have reached the end of your energies. Not going to happen. When we are in touch with it, we are also in touch with the source of infinite energy and strength within us, and that which is the source of love, that which is the source of wisdom, and that which is the source of strength and power is what we call as the divine. And finally, if the question comes, how do we get in touch with it? All the build-up which we have seen so far, it's not of much value unless we can get in touch with that divine. And here is one simple suggestion which you and I can take, because, well, we cannot exclusively devote ourselves to this job, isn't it? Well, let me look for an ashram somewhere so that I can be away from everything, every commitment which is going to pull me into so many things which I have committed. so that I can start focusing and close my eyes and then focus and try to get in touch with the divine within. Not going to happen. We have an office to attend, we have a car to drive or a vehicle to get into, and we have a family. All that is there. And how do we get in touch with the inner divine? In and through where you and me are. And this is the simple advice from the mother. Whatever work you do, whether you go to an office, keep accounts. I'm a little intrigued by mother using the word account, because once we get into the money and money minded now, well, God is miles, the divine within is miles and miles away from us. We tend to get so much enamored by it. Well, it's bye-bye to the divine within and all for money, because we keep thinking money can get us so much. And interestingly, she puts that one job which is likely to take us so far away from the divine within. Keeping accounts. Can you do it? Even with the intention of getting in touch with the inner divine? Very well. This is what mother says. Whether you go to an office, you have a boss, who is raining fire on you, or a conducive one, it doesn't matter. If you keep accounts, drive a car, anything, whatever the work you do, and naturally, whomever you do it for. So important. When we go to the office, we have to do it for the boss. We cannot say that, well, I'm going to do it for the divine and you please excuse me. And the boss will say, you please excuse me, please don't come to the office from the next day. Not going to happen. We have to do it out of compulsion. We are not yet so strong that we can do what we want to do. We are not yet so powerful to do that. But in our condition, whomever we do it for, it must be an offering to the divine. Outwardly, it may be an offering to the boss. It may be an offering to your mother-in-law, father-in-law, or parents, or friends, or anybody else. But inwardly, you are utilizing your energies with this prayer, that may this take me closer to you by one step more. Today, I have a kind of boss who is completely dominating me. I have to do it, but as I do it, outwardly he is going to be benefited, but all the energy I am putting it, may it take me one step closer to you. Two things happen. One, somewhere deep within, we have to keep remembering the divine within. And the second one, inwardly, we get into the habit of offering everything, outwardly under compulsions. So this is what mother is going to say. While doing it, you should keep the remembrance of the divine. If you have fallen in love or got, what they call as obsessed with somebody, so happen, not that I'm asking this for everybody, but you will find that whatever you are doing constantly, in the back of your mind or in the back of your heart, you are thinking about that person. You have fallen so much in love. When you are eating something nice, I've seen it happening so many times in my mother, that she has even told me also, she will go out, she will come back, and then she will tell me, oh, I ate something so nice. As I ate, I was remembering that you liked it so much. I said, Mama, why don't you focus on what you ate? Just have a go, enjoy. And then she couldn't. She watches something and then immediately says, oh, he would have enjoyed it. It happens naturally. You don't have to make an effort for this. And it's interesting in the same way that when we get into the practice, initially, thoda mental effort karna padega. We cannot do away with it. But as we continue the progress, it becomes a constant remembrance. And as we enter into this practice, as we remember the divine, and we will find that an intimacy is getting developed between us and the divine within. And as this intimacy gets developed, it turns into an adoration and a sacrifice and an offering of all that we do. And as we do that, the connection becomes constant and permanent. And once the connection is happened, that inner divine fills us. And what happens when the divine within fills us? Well, whatever we are full of, it comes out. Just imagine, suppose you go and have a conversation with a friend who is a top order singer, and he is somebody who is full of music. So you start a conversation with him on the current day politics. So you say about Modi ji did this and then China this one. 5 minutes into a conversation, your friend is going to ask, "Ek gana ho jaye? Shall we sing a song?" Why? Because he is full of song, and when you are full of something, whatever you do outside, it is going to come out in the same way. When you are filled with that love, the source of love, the source of wisdom and source of power, when we are so much identified with it, somebody might think that I'm very self-centered person because all my attempt is towards that divine within. No, it's the opposite is going to happen when I enter into connection, and when I am filled with the divine within, whatever I am filled, it is going to express itself in a million ways. And that is what Mother says, conclude, do it as an expression of your consecration to the divine. And when the connection becomes stronger, all that we do, every thought that we think is going to be an expression of the divine towards the divine, the inner divine within everybody, such brilliant thoughts will come as a result of your getting connected. Your emotions will flow out to not just people, but even to the stone and the dogs and the flowers and the sky and the moon and the stars. It is going to come out of you, and even physically, you will be so much filled with this love that you will be able to express yourself. What is within gets unleashed. A deep and infinite love, a deep and infinite wisdom, and deep and infinite strength and power gets unleashed. And the life can never be the same, even if we have had 1,000th of what I have been sharing with you. And with this quote, final quote, we'll bring it to a closure. And this is what we call the divine love, not our love towards somebody sitting somewhere because of which I have to give up life. भगवान को पाने के लिए सब कुछ छोड़ना पड़ेगा. And this, we are reversing the trend. In fact, if we get in touch with the divine within, in fact, we will be entering into relationship with everything around us in an unimaginably beautiful way. And this is what we call as the divine love, nothing else. And this is a quote from the Mother of expressing, once we have found, divine love, true love, finds its delight and its satisfaction in itself. Suppose if you are quarantined, God forbid, for 14 days, well, you are not going to get frustrated because you are with the divine within and you are with the delight and satisfaction with itself. जब मौका नहीं है, you are not going to get frustrated. You are with yourself, still in a state of joy. Why? It has no need to be received and appreciated, not to be shared. There is no compulsion in it. Because no compulsion in it, can I go and sit in the Himalayas? No, Baba. When it is so full of it, you cannot hold yourself. It's going to come out of you. It's like a dam, which is where the water level has risen to the full. And with that dam of infinite waters, and you raise the door, the sluice gates of the dam, what is going to happen? It's going to come out. How? It loves for the sake of loving. As a flower blooms, the flower which holds the fragrance within itself, well, it cannot hold it for long. It has to open and give it away to the world. And just like a flower blooms, you tend to love for the sake of loving. To feel this love in oneself is to possess an immutable happiness. Well, when we cannot take up a topic like this in any other place except in India, because this is one place where they have explored the farthest reaches of love. And if we really want to know, to feel, and to express such a love, just look up. There are so many stories which are there available in our country, and there's nothing like that. There are so many examples. It's not something airy-fairy, and it's not something which some of the modern way of looking at is distorted it. And of course, the religions also, Hinduism, Christian and Muslim and Islam, have taken up the external form and perhaps a lot of bloodshed and animosity has been created, but we are not talking about anything external. We are talking about the divinity within, who is there within every one of us. Nobody, not a single person or a single thing in this world can say that I don't have this presence. And we are talking about getting in touch with that presence and expressing it in our everyday life. Well, we will pause here. I don't know whether any questions have come, because even just talking about it is feels so wonderful. And being a youth and being somebody who has been connected to India, every youth must know the possibility of such a way of loving the once we get connected with the divine within. Well, over to Palak and team if you have any questions.
Yeah, thank you so much, Shiv. And just one thing before we go to the question and answers, one thing that struck me. Um, it is so beautiful that we are having this session of relationship with the divine on Friendship Day itself.
Ah,
So,
so
like a lot of us, I think that this is something that we have received in feedback. What is this divine? And then, what are some conscious practices that we can do? So, learning about these today and maybe even trying to put it up and adopt it as a practice from today onwards would be really special for a lot of us. So, really grateful to you, Shivda, for introducing this aspect to all of us. Um, Before moving on to question and answers, we would like to request all of you to fill in the feedback forms. Your feedback is really important for us to function better. It will help us get more aligned with all of you. Also, when you fill the feedback form, you will receive the summary of this session along with the quotes that Shivda shared during the session. And we will also inform you about the future announcements using that. And in case you have any suggestions, feel free to share it through the form as well. So we will share the link over chat, and we can take a minute's pause before we proceed to the question and answers.
well, sometimes some of the topics that we take up, they need to be explored in greater depth and for longer duration. And therefore, in interactions like this, where we keep it open, we may be able to touch only the surface. But if any of you are interested in seriously taking this up in an experiential way, making it part of one's own life, well, if you would like to, then we can even organize a separate series of interactions where, of course, from your side, there have to be some commitments, because without commitment, nothing is going to come out of it. Because you are a youth, you cannot say that I'm not ready for any commitment. This is one commitment which actually will set you free. And if you are interested, just mention it to us, because this is not something which we can cover in one interaction or over a few interactions. This has to become part and parcel of our everyday life. And we have to start practicing it not only in our home, but in our office space and anywhere else in the world. If you are interested, do let us know through the feedback form. And that was the importance of feedback form. Do let us know, and we will be very happy to share whatever we have learned from Mother and Sri Aurobindo to all of you.
Thank you, Shivda. And very quickly, I'll take a moment to announce our next talk as well. So our next talk is on the topic of remaining motivated, and we'll be exploring willpower and perseverance. And this is one of those topics that has been requested the most as part of the feedback form. So yeah, this is something that we'll have during our next interaction, and looking forward to seeing all of you.
Just a couple of words, Palak. See,
Yeah.
when we enter into these practices, and there'll be a lot of people ready to ridicule you, then you will be saying that, oh, I'm trying to do it as my offering to the divine within. And somebody happens to come, he is going to say, Pagal hai kya? There are so many other things. Come on, don't do it. We are likely to get demotivated, and sometimes we will need a little support. We may not have the willpower to persist in this endeavor. There are 1,000 temptations outside, and therefore we need to develop a willpower and the capacity to persevere. And the next step naturally is, how do we keep ourselves motivated? Manoj Bhaiya will be taking that session. Go ahead, Palak.
Yeah, I think that is pretty much about it. Just one thing, that in case you miss receiving the notification from our end, we have these sessions every Sunday at 8 p.m. So you can check the Facebook page, find the Zoom details, and join us here. With that, I would like to invite Harsh to ask his question, after which Raghav will take over. Harsh, can you unmute yourself? Yeah, you can go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, Shivda. And it's really an amazing when you started and it automatically brought a smile on my face. So thank you so much for that. So my question is, when I used to connect with the youth and most of the people, so I used to get them like for them that love is like friendship love is different, office love is different, colleague love is different. But what I feel is love is only the one. So can you tell it like can you explain this how we have to treat it?
Yeah, it's easier if we take an example which is physical. Now remember, all the examples will have their own limitation because they are not yet the thing, but we take only that part which explains certain thing. So it is like taking a gold. So the gold, which doesn't have any specific form, like something simply exists as a gold bar. If you look at it, it's not something which is inviting or invigorating, but the same gold can take many shapes and many forms, and it can undergo several modifications. And in a certain sense, when we look at the different types of love or the relationship, the friendship wala and the maternal, paternal, sibling wala, in and behind it is the source is the same. When the source limits itself in a certain way, it becomes, let us say, parental wala love. And when it shapes itself in a certain other way, it becomes a partnership wala love. And it takes another route and another way, but in and behind is the source is the same. And that source is nothing but the love which is there within our hearts. So you are right in saying, you remember in when you are with, let us say, a sibling, a sister or a brother, you cannot do everything that you do with your friend. All the badmashi nahi chalega, because the sister or brother will immediately throw back things at you, at your face, and as simple as that. It's never at an equal footing. The moment you say friendship, it's mostly on equal footing. Well, when brother and sister, well, who is elder immediately comes into play. So it is immediately certain things will get limited, which you can do best with your sister and brother. And there is a certain closeness with your sister and brother. There is a certain closeness with your friendship wala. And there is a certain maturity in the love that you receive from the parents who have gone through lots of experience. I'm talking not necessarily of the parents as they are, because they are also looking for and yet to find the source of love, at least from those parents who could find the source of love, the love that we receive so matured. And then there is a love of us, of a poetry, for literature, for this and that, innumerable things. But behind it all is that one source. And all this is an expression of love. It is for the joy of love. Because if the love holds on to itself and then remains unexpressed, where is the joy? And therefore, there has to be a variety of love too. And it's almost like tasting different dishes. All is food, but even made out of the same set of ingredients, but the combinations and permutations are so many, which makes it more interesting. But one aspect is, if it is a love which is blind, which doesn't carry wisdom in it. And just to give a normal example, the general love of a parent have for their children, they think their love, amount of love, is directly proportional to the quantity of food they feed you. Now, that if that is the case, it's love, still love. But they say a cover or cover, and they are happy when they make you eat more. And it gets a little restricted and narrow, but in and behind it, even the love that you get from your mother or father is actually the love that is coming from the divine within. And at some point, if we realize it, then we will not hold on to that love in its external form. And when the time comes, we will be able to release. There are so many friends with us. There may be times when the friends will have to go away from us. We don't have to feel that we are missing it, because usually I still remember the last day of the 10th and the last day of the college, when suddenly all the friends have disappeared. There is a huge emptiness. If you can remember the last goodbye of your friends, there is suddenly as if there is an emptiness created in my heart. This wouldn't happen when we have filled ourselves with that inner divine's love. Then if the situation doesn't allow, we will not be put off. And that is another important thing. But as you have rightly said, the source is the same, but its expression is infinite and varied, and that's what makes it more joyous.
Thank you, Harsh, for asking that question, and thank you, Shivda, for answering that so well. So the next one is from Siddharth, who says that what if the love that I give is not reciprocated back?
Well, here is the thing. I have 1,000 rupees in my bank balance. If I spend 500 and if I don't get the 500 back, what will happen to my balance? This question is simple, as simple. I run out of money, I feel miserable. And this happens when the love comes from our surface heart. And our surface heart, based on the way it brought up, based on the cinemas it saw and the novels it read, it carries its own conviction and its own way of expectations and all the 100 other things. And if the love comes from the surface heart, or it comes from an idea that we hold, love has to be like this and this, only at every birthday I'm given the costliest present, that is called love. If we start evaluating and judging and coming up with things from our mind, then that love is coming from a surface part of me, and there is no guarantee what form this love will happen. So one thing, it will have a tendency to make it business transactional. I smile at you, you have to smile back at me. Otherwise, I will smile 2 more times, then I'm going to look for somebody else who will smile at me. As simple as that. In the college, like you go after a girl, 1 month, 2 months, after that, ye nahi hoga, and then you turn your attention to, this is the surface love, and what comes from the surface will have the expectation that it has to be returned, that I have to get back. तुम्हारे लिए last 2-3 weekends I've taken you out and so much. Now the next weekend you will have to entertain me and you will have to shower your love on me, and then that expectation and that demand naturally comes. But it doesn't happen when we deepen ourselves and allow the love to come from there without the conditioning, which means that little bit of quietude and clearing of the mind has to happen. If you have several ideas of love, it's better to clear off, because all the idea about love you need to have will happen once you get in touch with the divine within. And also, by looking at all the Hindi movies and especially the violent way of expressing love, well, that is something the most, I don't know, dramatic movie, which means filled with complete hatred. Why? So that you express and get a feel of that violent form of love, all this coming from the surface. And also thinking that love is fulfilled or based only on physicalities. And when this happens from the surface, obviously it is going to get disappointed sooner or later, and you will have a tendency to get more and more frustrated, pushing you into depression, because it is not possible to satisfy the expectation of something which is not under our control. At least if it is under our control, we can hold it back. Who can say that I have control over what my mind thinks about? So it thinks about one thing today, another thing tomorrow. What about my surface heart? Well, it is carried by all the emotional attractions which I expose myself to, and so also with the bodies. The moment I get caught up in it, and if I start loving from there, obviously this is what I say, oh, if I don't get back the love, obviously you're going to feel miserable. And the solution is not to love. If this person doesn't give me love after 6 months, let me change the person who will give me love. She seems to be a little better, he seems to be better, and if we change it, you will have to keep on changing. One of the reasons for the modern relationship being so short-lived is because it comes from the surface, and you think the problem is with the other person. I have done everything that I could, and the other person is not able to understand me, reciprocate me. You try to put it on the other person. The moment you put the thing on the other person, what is the solution? Change the person, you move to another person, enter into another relationship. Well, as long as you are loving from the surface, expressing your love from the surface, it is bound to happen. The only solution is deepen it. It's no harm in starting with the surface, okay? Take it as a means to deepen your love, so that little by little the mind drops its limited way of seeing, its expectation, its demand, and the heart, wanting returns on the investment, it drops itself, and the body, under the control of the impulses, craving for the things that you watch on the internet, and when it gets dropped, when this dropping happens, a certain quietening happens and certain deepening happens, and then that unlimited love, the love which focuses on self-giving, comes out, and then the quality of love changes dramatically. When such a love comes, really I tell you, other person cannot resist it. It will go and melt the other person like it will melt a butter. It is irresistible. So which is the better way of actually reaching out to the other person, and nothing but the love that comes from within.
Thank you, Shivda, for answering that so beautifully. So the next question is from Soumya from Facebook. She says that it is said that Lord Krishna helped Draupadi because of her prior karma, where she did a lot of good. Some say that she tore her sari and tied it to Lord Krishna's finger when he hurt himself, that he responded. Do you have to have good karma for God to help you, or is it enough that you only love him?
It is interesting, the story that I have shared. You remember from where it comes from and how it went through. When people who are incapable of grasping the truth that Draupadi, if she reached out to the divine within, she will be reaching out to the true divinity, and whether in whatever form that divinity would have come to her help. When we are not able to accept this truth, usually some stories get built around it. And what is the type of stories? Well, it is because of in the past, the which bound Krishna, so that Krishna became bound uh, because of the past relationship. He has to come and save her. He is doing it under compulsion. You see how we are putting our human love into something whose nature is unlimited and unconditional, which happens without expectation. So it is because rather than us transforming our love and raising it to that level, we catch hold of that love, which happened in a space of unlimited, unconditional reality. We bring it down to our level and start ascribing reasons to it. It is because of this. How did Draupadi get such a friend? Must be something good she has done in this life. Then you read Mahabharata, not really, nothing good I see. Oh, then it must be from the past life. And suppose if somebody comes up with the past life and finds no reason for such a beautiful relationship, then you go back to 2 more lives. These are all the reasons which the mind is trying to impose in its crude attempts to bring down that love, so that it can kind of try to play around or comprehend it. And it is better to stay away from such notions. And in fact, such notions will fall away once we make contact with the divine within. And we are not talking about realizing something which is far away. We are talking about getting in touch with something which is right here, right now, accessible to it. How far is it away from us? Just a few inches. It is only that we are so much outward looking that I need to get love from this. I will get love only because of past karma. I will get love only if I am beautiful, if I am fair, if I have this, if I can sing well. All that actually colors. And if we let go of that and just get in touch with that pure love, then these notions will drop by themselves. So it is not just because of karma that you can get this love. Karma is limited, and the love that you get also will be limited if it is coming from karma, which we do. But when we get into a space of selfless action and then we produce an act, that act will bring love, which is unlimited in its nature, not conditioned by karma or any external factor.
Thank you, Shivda, for answering that. Before we move on to the next question, I would just let everyone know that we have a lot of questions today. So in case anyone wants to drop off, they can.
Well,
And
it's
we'll
a
be
Sunday, and then some nice dinner must have been made. If you are not the person who is cooking, it must have been made by somebody who has a lot of love for you. Please go ahead, or if you get it, and then anyway, the video is already switched off, so you can secretly munch. I can't do it because I'm visible to everybody, but go ahead with it. Any external commitment, please go ahead with it. And those who have a little extra time and have some burning questions, stay on. We will do whatever is possible.
Yeah. So, Shivda, the next question is from Prajakta from Facebook. She asked
Yes.
that could you please give some examples of how we should surrender in both difficult and easy situations? What should be our thought process?
What happens when we are in a difficult situation is all of us is not available when we are caught in a difficult situation to respond to that situation. So we cannot suddenly practice this type of responding from deep within when we find ourselves in difficult situation. The practices will have to start when everything is conducive. So if we have done enough preparation before the COVID started, and even if we happen to be quarantined, well, we will take it as a blessing because there are so many things which you can do when you are quarantined, provided you have done the previous preparation. So while completely caught up in a difficulty, it is extremely difficult to practice this attitude because the difficulty that is imposed on us by certain conditions or certain people, and the moment we feel ourselves caught up in it, already we will not have the capacity to go deep within ourselves and respond from within. And therefore, a certain amount of detached attachment has to be practiced before such a situation comes. Why do I say detached attachment? Well, somewhere deep within, we know that if we form any attachment or any preference to anything, it has to first go through within and then come out. It's a way of forming, and therefore we have to detach ourselves from everything around us, my boss, my career, my working space, and we keep a little bit of time for ourselves in a day, and then we practice going within, and when we step outside, we begin to relate to everything from within outwards. We can't do it immediately, but can we start practicing this at least by taking out half an hour out of the 24 hours that we have in a day? Just half an hour with the divine exclusively. For example, when you get up in the morning, you get up, as soon as you get up with a prayer that may this day help me to take me 1 inch closer to you, my Krishna within, or whatever you want to call it. And when you get up, remember what Mother has said, there has to be a remembrance. Try to remember the inner divine in whatever form. Even if you are familiar with the form of Shiva or Radha or Krishna or Meera, it doesn't matter. Don't worry too much about, as long as your intention is to get to that. And when you step outside and of your bed, and when you start walking, you walk with the divine. You imagine, even if it's an imagination first, that the divine is walking with you in whatever form you want to conceive. When you pick up a brush and then when you start brushing, Well, how lovely it is if the divine also is brushing with you. And when you enter into the shower, well, you feel that every drop of water falls in you carries the presence of the divine. It is the divine who is washing you. And when you are washing yourself, you do it with this attitude that all that you do will have to bring one step closer, and all the while remembering the divine. And when you step outside of your bathroom, when you are wiping yourself with a towel, what is the towel if not something which carries the presence of the divine? And you remember, this is extremely difficult to maintain, because the moment you come into contact with people and the things outside and 100 things which you have to commit to, well, you are going to lose yourself. But half an hour with the divine every day, choose a time when you are likely to be left to yourself. And the things that I have described, the morning shows, and I'm hoping that you are not, you don't have to do it under somebody staring down at you, and make use of that. Or towards the end, when everybody has gone to bed, the last half an hour where you take up something, read something, and do something, or pick up small activities, even the simple act of putting a flower to something which is symbolic, lighting a lamp. These are all some devotional rituals, provided you do with, or pick up a piece of paper and start expressing yourself in the form of drawing, and you say that this is my offering to you, to the inner divine, and then offer that. Or start arranging flowers on your table, while you pick up every flower and keep it on that plate, you offer it to the divine within, so that it becomes an offering to the divine. When we enter into this practice, and then suddenly one day, when we find ourselves in the most difficult, demanding circumstances, the response will leap out from within, and it will have an effect which will even surprise you. And at that situation, because it is a source of infinite wisdom and power, suddenly the exact word that you needed to say will leap out of your mouth. And the exact amount of emotional intensity that you will need will flow out of you. And even the physical bodily posture will adopt itself, so that everything becomes an expression which is so intensely powerful that the difficult person or the situation will cease to intimidate us. So, unfortunately, when we are in the difficult situation, that is the time, let me try this inner divine thing, works or not, may not work unless it is some act of grace. But when no difficult situations are there, that is the time to start practice. Half an hour with the divine. What divine? With the divine within.
Yes, thank you so much, Shivda, for that. The next question is from Aritra Ghosh. She says that being in audits, I am frequently in confrontations with the people. How do I keep my inner connection through practice?
It is true that as long as we have not become rooted in ourselves, every Tom, Dick, and Harry will have a tendency to force us into doing something. Sometimes it comes if we hold on to some mistaken notion which is called goodwill. Because if somebody asks me a favor, if I don't do it, I feel guilty. Not necessarily. Even the need to be good to others, if it is coming from a surface part of us, is not something that I would recommend, because it is likely to put ourselves into deep situation. So one thing which I can recommend you, who is the person who asked the question? What is her name?
It's Aritra Ghosh from Facebook.
Aritra Ghosh.
Yep.
So when such situation come, the first thing is you will have to learn to detach yourself and look at yourself as if it is happening to somebody else. So if somebody is, for example, shouting at me, it's almost a whole amount of probably anger or hatred. With that vibration, he is trying to overpower me and make me shrink. If that is what is happening, the first thing to do is to step back, to look at ourselves. Oh, if it is happening to me, I will say, oh, somebody is shouting at Shivakumar. poor Shivakumar is not able to. That distancing ourselves, that stepping back itself will help us to be free of the intensity of the negative vibration which surround us. So if somebody is angrily abusing at me, and if I quietly, while listening to it, if I step back, I will not feel the heat of the anger. And this is something that we can practice any place. Where are we stepping into? Within ourselves. As simple as that. Now, once we have stepped back, then we are not under the control of the other person, and we will not be under the compulsion either to fight or flight too. The two basic reactions. So if we are not stepping back, then we will have a tendency, if we are strong, we will tend to shout back at that person or to behave in a violent way. If we are meek, well, we take more upon ourselves and we suffer inside by shrinking within ourselves and taking on the negative, whatever it is happening there. So whether strong or weak, if I am there on the surface, well, I am under the control. I will be influenced by whatever happens outside. If I can step back, I'm already free. Once I have stepped back, then I have a better view of the picture. Who is the person who is shouting? My boss. Who am I? Well, right now I am at his mercy. So the situation is clear. Don't shout back anything which you will regret later. See, you already have a clearer picture. Or your mother-in-law or your husband. You get a clearer picture when you step back from things. And when you step back, this is something that we have to practice. We have to step back so much so that a certain calmness and quietness naturally comes and settles in us. Until that happens, that is the distance we have to step back. Otherwise, if we simply step back into our own confused mind, the mind will give 10 more confused ideas. If we step back into our normal heart, then the emotional turmoil and the emotional drama will be the place where I will be getting into. I will do something emotionally, I will regret. So if I step back deep enough, I already get into a space which is calm and quiet. And Mother says beautifully, when we enter into a state of calmness and quietness, that is a state of strength. So we have to practice this. Now, this is a stage where we are not able to respond yet adequately, but at least practice this much so that you're not under the influence, the brunt, the negative vibrations which will make you shrink and feel miserable about it. And once you have practiced this to a sufficient extent, then you begin to respond from that state of calmness and quietness. And everything that you say and do from that space will carry a strength which will overpower the other person, and you will not be subjected by the other person. So to put it in short, when you have somebody trying to influence you, dominate you, overpower you, step back, because you are very weak. The person who can shout at you in a louder voice will be intimidating. Step back so that you are outside of their influence. And where are you getting into? Getting into a space of calmness. And that is when you begin to feel the strength. And then slowly you begin to respond. Try to formulate one sentence and quietly, calmly, if your boss is shouting at you, quietly calm. If it is a mistake you have committed, mistake ho gaya, I will try to rectify it. No extra things. Or somebody is emotionally attacking you, overpower you, you step back and then say, "Arey, galti ho gaya, ek baar koshish karunga. I will try to do it best." And if there is really something wrong with you, no harm in accepting, because it helps you to work on it and overcome. And then gradually you begin to respond from that space. So that's it. Practice, as all that I say, first time, if you don't get it, not sufficient reason for you to give up. It's just that it's a new way of being and then behaving. And second time, you'll find that you're able to do it with a little effort. Third time, well, you can do it and then you're getting it quickly. And the fourth time, well, bindas. Before even somebody shouts at you, you are ready to fire back at him with a machine gun.
Thank you so much, Shivda, for that. So we'll be just taking the last question for the day because of
Yes.
time shortage,
Yes.
and we'll be replying to all other questions via email. So Shivda, the last question for you is from Rajendra Prasad. He says
Yes.
that how can we remember the psychic? By
Ah.
feeling there or by doing Nam Jap of the divine?
Well, it is interesting because whatever works, you take it up. If somebody says it's only this, only that, you don't have to. And what you do will have to be aligned with your temperament. So if you are somebody who is of the thinking type, then take up books and read about people who have experience of the psychic being. I don't know if you are familiar with the mother or Sri Aurobindo. They have said so much, described so much about the psychic being. So you approach what is natural and temperamental to you and surround yourself with, approach the inner divine with what comes to you naturally. And if you're really game for it, well, they have written even mota books. So you would like to completely immerse your intellect into it, you can do it. Or if you are, this itself is kind of a yoga. Traditionally, we call it as Buddhi Yoga or Jnana Yoga, where we employ our mind and its capacities, engage in it, and just engaging in it, but be very careful what you engage with. It has to be something which contains that spiritual power. If you are of an emotional type, take up anything which is of emotional nature, singing, dancing, arranging flowers. Flowers are a beautiful way of getting in touch with the divine within. Decorating or and arranging things or anything of the devotional nature is absolutely fine, and which will help you to remember the divine within. Or take up an activity at the weekend as a service to the divine, so that the energies of your body are engaged in, and gradually the body itself will begin to remember. So when you, for example, engage into mechanical act of eating, so if you eat with this intention that I am giving this food to the divine within, and then with that attitude, if you eat, after some time, it becomes natural to you. The body remembers. The moment somebody gives you whatever food, even a pizza or a samosa, the moment you are about to put, you know that as I put in, as I taste it, as I completely experience this samosa, I'm going to experience it and as a remembrance, as an offering to the divine within. And I'm not going to say no to samosa or anything, but I convert it into a means of doing it. So engage in physical activities, even decorating, arranging, cleaning things, everything could become part of it. And if it is directly reminding you of the psychic being or the people whom you consider to be your guide, who will be putting you in touch with it, for example, the photograph of the mother, arranging flowers in front of the mother, or just even sweeping, wiping the photograph with a cloth, all the while connecting with the divinity within or with the mother, and then do it and try to do it with a continuity. As you try to do it with a certain continuity, after some time you don't have to make an effort anymore. Even when you step out, even when you are in an atmosphere which doesn't have anything that could be called as spiritual, because you are full of it, you will be carrying an atmosphere of spirituality and walking everywhere. It is almost like as you walk, the mother is walking with you. Well, you don't need, you can walk into any atmosphere and confront any situation, because already you are carrying your own atmosphere. So take up anything which is aligned with your temperament, and without making any mental rule that this is better than that, that is better than that. Well, nama japa is the best thing. Well, meditation is not better, not necessarily. So you try out, select, and create a few practices and put them in what I call as a spiritual toolkit, so that in any situation you pick out one tool and practice. For example, you are traveling in the train. Well, you can't read anything, you can't look at any photograph. Well, kind of focus the concentration on the inside and then take up japa. So that becomes the main. Why? Because while traveling in a crowded train, well, that is what I can do. You take that up. So you create a spiritual toolkit, and some of the things that have worked for you, keep them there. Japa is definitely one way. And second way, imagining that the divine is with you. When you are traveling in a train, imagine the divine is standing next to you. When you are riding a bike, imagine that the mother is sitting right behind you as a pillion rider. When you are having a conversation with a friend, then imagine that the mother is right next to you listening to the conversation. And if she is listening to the conversation, what will be the quality of your conversation? That is how we change it. And that's why Sri Aurobindo has put up a very beautiful quote in the ashram. It goes something like, behave as if the mother was looking at you. So we have to imagine, are we imagining something which is not real? And then Sri Aurobindo completes his sentence, behave as if the mother was looking at you because she is indeed present. So we can't feel concretely, so we make use of imagination. We behave as if she is with us, and in reality, she is with us. And as we enter into practice, we will feel concretely the presence all the time.
So thank you, Shivda, for such wonderful and deep insights, starting from clarifying the myths around intimate relationships to letting us know that what divine is, and finally letting us know the importance of forming a relationship with the divine through those references from the Mahabharata. Thank you so much. We would also like to thank everyone who could join us today, both over Facebook and Zoom. Next week, we will be moving on from relationships to another very important topic, how to remain motivated. So we hope to see you all. Thank you and have a good week ahead.
Have a beautiful day, and just take this home that the key towards relating to anything outside is within us. And every one of us has been given that key. Make use of that key, open the door within your heart, and get connected with the divine within. You will be able to get connected with everything on the outside. Thank you so much.